Sounds like he's saying it, and I'm going to look really good when I resuscitate him. I don't think that's the point. John wants you to hear this gospel as something that walks with you. So all that weird language that's kind of disconcerting about, I'm talking to you, God, I know you hear me, and all these other people need to hear me too, is really about John wanting you to have a gospel that walks along with you in your life's journey. So please don't get hung up on that. You know, I kind of fell into something a couple weeks ago. I didn't mean to have it happen, but it did, and sometimes that's what happens when you're not fully paying attention. A couple weeks ago, I sat down with my Facebook Live application, and I opened it up, and I posted to the St. Mark's page on Facebook, reminding people that we weren't going to be able to gather on the 15th of March. And I was praying for folks and letting them know that we could all watch the live stream from Washington National Cathedral, and we would all worship together. And I've been doing them daily ever since. They're short, and people seem to like them, and they find them helpful, and I'm actually pretty chipper in them. It's a little chipper for me after only one cup of coffee, but you know, I can rock some Perky, I guess, along with the next person. And I'm never really too sure what I'm going to say in them. I mostly go off the cuff. The first time I did it, I was wearing my favorite pair of glasses. They're red ones. They're also Martha's favorite ones as well. And I used it as a prop. I talked about them. I said that these were one of my many pairs of glasses, and I would see if I could find some different pairs. And believe it or not, I was able to find 7 different pairs of glasses that I was willing to wear on camera. I have some really, really unattractive ones I won't. And now I'm in the midst of my ball caps. I don't know. I don't have that many ball caps. I might. I don't know. But the last week, earlier on in the week, I wore one that I bought when I was in Banff, Alberta. And I was in Banff, Alberta last fall. And mainly because my friends Bill and Emily and my wife and I wanted to spend a little time together. So we went to Banff, and we chose Banff because it was somewhat of a surprise for our friend Bill, who'd always wanted to go to Banff, and especially Lake Louise. And he just thought this would be a great opportunity for him to see a part of the world that he really wanted to see. Now, you probably already know this about me, but I grew up in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and Banff is about 90 miles away. So I spent a lot of summers up there hiking with friends, swimming in glacial waters, skiing at Mount Norquay weekend after weekend after weekend, going up to Lake Louise and skiing. I was never the skier that my sister was, but I did it fairly regularly. So I'd spent a lot of time in that part of the world. And truthfully, I was kind of done with it. It was become very touristy. There were more and more people there than when I was a child. And I just didn't want to go, but my friends did. And I love my friends, so off to Banff we went. And here's what happened. I saw that part of the world anew for the very first time. Think about your childhood home. Think about all the things that you used to do as a child, and to be able to see them brand new, to see them in a different light, to see them in a different way. Bill's delight at the mountains, Bill's delight at getting to Lake Louise and seeing that just perfect vista of 2 mountains crashing into each other in front of this green glacial lake delighted him. I myself was just irritated by the whole thing. See, when I was a kid, you used to be able to go up to Lake Louise and park in this little tiny parking lot and walk over there, and you were just all by yourself. Well, this crazy thing called Instagram happened to Lake Louise, and there were a bazillion people there. I actually don't even think I'm exaggerating. I think the actual number was a bazillion. There were shuttles that you parked 20 miles away and got on a bus and shuttled up there to see it. We found a little campsite, parked at it, and walked up. But Bill's delight so outweighed my irritation that I couldn't just do what I used to do as a child. This was something he'd always wanted to do. Seeing things with new eyes, hearing things with new ears is always what Jesus is trying to do in these Gospels. Jesus is calling us to see the world anew. We are people who are forged in seeing things anew. That's how we change. The container that we build in worship, the container we build in community, the container we build in our lives with our families and our jobs is about change. There is no way that Lazarus was not changed by his death and resuscitation. There's no way that Martha wasn't changed, or Mary, or the disciples. This disruption of our lives, this new way of being for a time, will change us. We don't know what it's going to look like. And instead of looking back and saying, gosh, I just wish everything was back the way it was, we have to live in a time that we don't know what this disruption is going to cost us. And we are all moving through that society. Last week I preached on this idea of this might be the new normal. And us clawing back to try and find out what the old normal is, isn't going to help us. And we can pretend this is just a subtle shift, a disruption about how we spend our time together, because we don't want to realize how much this thinking, how much time we have on our hands to assess what our life is and isn't, how our patterns have changed, how our expectations have changed. We can't fill it up with the stuff we used to normally fill it up with. We can't go out to a new restaurant with our family. We can't go on a trip. We can't hang out and meet new people. None of it is going to work for us right now. We are in a new way of being. And that change, like Lazarus, like Mary, like Martha, will disrupt our lives. It will disrupt that container. You know, next week is Palm Sunday, which is unbelievable to me. And we get swept up in that story of that last week of Jesus' life on earth. We're not reenacting it. We are walking through it. We are walking through the end of his life. We're walking through that betrayal. We're walking through to the end of his time here. We're walking into a day when there'll be no Eucharist on Good Friday. In the Episcopal Church, that's the only day we don't have Eucharist, except for now. We're living into a place of spiritual communion. We should be hungry for Eucharist. We should be hungry for that bread and wine. We should be anxious to be back together. And when I bless bread and wine on that altar, I won't be taking it. It will be a matter of us all taking it together when we're back together. This year, we don't have the ability to be together, and it'll be different. And I know some of you are spending the first Easter of your life without your friends and family around a table. And I know for some of you, you have a very quiet Easter alone all the time. And maybe all of us will be changed to that to see where you are. And I know it's difficult. But this is the only way we're not going to continue to spread this virus around. So fight the urge to gather. Stay that 6 feet away from one another. We're doing everything in our power to keep each other safe, and we need to keep doing it. And we know that as we do that, we will be different on the other side. The disciples and Mary and Martha and Lazarus and all those who followed Jesus on the way, that way of love, were different. And we hear their stories later on in the Acts of the Apostles as they carry this message of this itinerant preacher out into the world, changing lives, changing themselves, costing them their very lives. We can't go back to what we used to be, nor could they. We will be different people. Our isolation will change us. But our work is to see the world anew, to hear with ears that are new what is out there for us. Like I said, I was shocked that Lake Louise was so inaccessible. And yet seeing it through Bill's eyes gave me a new delight, a new way of working through the world. I slightly irritated at Instagram, but that's how that story goes. But what I found was a deep connection to my friends, to be able to tell them the stories of my childhood, to be able to tell them who I was and where I came from in a way that was new for me. It wasn't about a bitterness of what used to be and it should be that way again. It was about, this is who I am, and they got to see me anew and hear me anew. And so as I move into this Easter season, uncertain, not knowing what the services will look like here, I'm trying to pause to learn, to appreciate, to be new. And I know that for me, my prayer has been and continues to be for all of you, but my prayer for myself is that I am more courageous and that I'm able to share that courage with others. I want to end with a prayer that my friend Terry Simpson shared with me earlier this week. It's from the Corrymeela community in Ireland, and it's a prayer for courage, and this is how I'm going to end. Courage comes from the heart, and we are always welcomed by God, the heart of all being. We bear witness to our faith, knowing that we are called to live lives of courage, life, love, and reconciliation in the ordinary and the extraordinary moments of each day. We bear witness, too, to our failures and our complicity in the fracture of this world. May we be courageous today. May we learn today. And may we love today. And the people say, Amen.
Amen.